I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mayor Caucus.
Here.
Mrs. Pasio.
Here.
Mr. Runnemede.
Here.
Mr. Lobenstein.
Here.
Mr. Farrell.
Here.
Mrs. Kelly.
Here.
Mr. Root.
Here.
Mr. Long.
Here, but I'm not the acting solicitor.
Yes, I know. Mr. Bayshore.
Here.
And Mr. Diori.
Here.
Okay, public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the clerk in the following manner. One, posted on the bulletin board in the Borough Clerk's office on January 3rd, 2019, and two, emailed to the retrospect and courier post on January 3rd, 2019. First item of business we have is Resolution 19-34, which is a resolution of support for Runnemede's governing body authorizing the Sustainable Jersey grant application. This is the one that Harry did, correct?
Yes.
You want to elaborate a little bit, Harry?
It's yearly grant that PSE&G puts out to all the municipalities for Green Team sustainability. This year's Green Team elected to put in for the grant for a rain garden down at Green Acres. With that, so I got the
At the bathroom area?
at the bathroom area. So with that will be a garden to capture the rain coming off the parking lot, filter it, and move on.
How much is the grant amount?
2,000.
2,000.
And the grant had to be applied by February 15th, but this resolution is going in, we have until March 15th to adopt it to meet their guidelines, that the funding, if we get it, is solely for that project.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to approve this resolution?
I make a motion to approve this resolution.
I'll second that
motion.
Motion by Ms. Pancio, second by Ms. Kelly. This is an all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the resolution is adopted. Resolution 1935 is a resolution authorizing application for program year 2019 Community Development Block Grant. Obviously, this is CDBG money. This is in tandem with our DOT application for the roads in the triangle type of between Eastham Road and Clemensbridge Road. Do you want to read the roads?
Schisler Circle Phase 2, Woodland Avenue, and north and south Rowan Avenue.
Okay. So these match the track. There was a difference between this and our DOT application by one road.
Just the dead end, that's by the...
Shepherd is not part of it. So if you remember, there's a tracks, community block grant track, so that DOT is not the same track as the, but it's still a good application, I think. I don't know if we'll definitely get it, but it's a good application. Any other discussion? Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve this
I'll second.
resolution.
Motion by Ms. Pasio, second by Mr. Ranieri. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
Mrs. Pasio.
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Mr. Root.
Yes.
And Mr. Runnemede.
Yes.
Aye.
All right, the resolution is adopted. New business discussion for this meeting, a public hearing for the COLA ordinance. So we just got to do the public hearing at the next,
March.
at the March meeting. So this allows the borough to go up to 3.5% if we need to in a particular appropriation, because there is appropriation cap. So it makes, we're allowed to raise taxes by 2%, but we're allowed to spend 3.5%, which is kind of weird, but it allows us to move money around, correct? Okay, resolution to cancel stale checks. Joyce, is there?
This came from the court. She gave me a list of checks that haven't been cashed since March of last year.
Okay, a lot of money?
$409.71.
Okay, I'll take it. I did speak to the assistant court administrator on my way in. One thing she was asking was our shredding event. The court has their personnel's been upstairs trying to clean up their closet, which is the one closest to the windows, to the door of the conference room. So they were up there cleaning up. Do we have a date? Do we know when we're going to do this? Are we coinciding with Rotary, or we can do it on our own? What are we doing with that?
We can pick a date, but we need to know that certification's been made for the disposal and everybody's ready for it before we plan a date.
Okay, do you want to just take a month? What I'd like to do with them is maybe pick a date in the next month or two and then force them to be ready. Do you like that idea?
No problem.
Can we do it on our cleanup day?
It's too much to
Too much to do?
Yeah.
It's too much. So we would do the same thing, we would bring the truck here to the borough?
The first hour, 2 hours is us getting rid of our.
All our guys bringing the stuff down.
To the residents to bring in.
Because I think, Joyce, you had like 25 boxes up there, right?
Yep.
Did you see all those boxes? And then, I think, right, we cleaned up a lot.
We take some of those down, that day that your guys will?
Yeah,
Well, you were able to dispose of some,
right.
as opposed to shredding
Yeah.
of some. If you want to pick a date, maybe we'll let court know that this is a tentative date and see if, you're right, she does have to get she has to get approval to get rid of this stuff.
Find
right?
out what vendors would.
Actually, what she told me is that they have some really old stuff in there that they're taking some time to clean up
In the court?
in the court area.
Yeah. They've been doing that. They've been putting their stuff together and organized for the past, 3 to 6 months. They've been doing
Okay.
So what's the approximate date?
I think in about in a month or two, you think is April a good time to do,
Yeah, probably after the 15th would be.
like
good.
when it's warmer,
Weekend is
standing
Saturday,
outside?
This way it's after tax season, people are trying to clean up the records.
That's not a bad idea.
I think Easter's the following week, isn't it?
21st? No, Easter's like the last.
Is it late this
Yeah,
year?
it's really late this year.
Late.
So just to report on court a little bit, since we don't report on it that often, if everyone does know that the state Supreme Court passed that all old court cases, non-violent crimes, all got washed away. Because there's no way to know even people are alive, the defendants are alive, things like that. But that didn't really affect what's called our backlog. Backlog is how many cases that haven't been heard. But our numbers are still doing very well. I don't have them off the top of my head. I can't remember them, but backlog basically is us moving the cases along in a timely fashion. And I think we've got everything going pretty good.
You have 60 days until they go into backlog from the occurrence of that. Now, in a lot of cases, that's impossible, especially with drunk driving and that sort of, more complex criminal cases, but the goal is to keep it as low as possible.
Yeah. But once again, Runnemede's always been somewhat lenient with postponements for people if they can't make it on a certain day or try to give them a different day, but not too much, things like that. Anything else in court? Our assistant administrator did pass her test and she did her project, but it hasn't been final approval yet. So she's getting there. It only took 9 years, but that's not too bad, I think. To get there.
Progress.
It did take 9 years. Resolution to accept the recommendation from the planning board regarding redevelopment zone. So at the next month meeting, the resolution was passed by the planning board the other evening. Council will approve it at that point. At that point, it will be official that we have a redevelopment zone. And then the next steps will be for us to then decide. We didn't get a proposal from you guys yet, did we?
I think so.
You did?
On that,
For
implementation of.
there was implementation? So maybe we can do is in the next week or so, we can find that old paperwork and put that on for the agenda. Now, obviously, there has to be funds to pay for it. So the implementation of the redevelopment zone was the second phase of this. So the first phase was the study, which we paid for.
I think we already have, we do have.
I think it's a
we have it encumbered.
2018 budget.
You think it was still back in 2018, so it might already be encumbered?
2017.
It could be 17. So we just got to look at that. If that money's still sitting there, then we can,
Mark and I go over the budget before we, through the engineering, and we go over it now.
well, this will be something ready for the March meeting? Can we be able to go over that money to make sure it's available for the,
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
have no problem.
because I think if we can't just pass the resolution, we got to pass for the money to do the next step, which is the actual written plan, to actually adopt the ordinances, to adopt all the aspects of this redevelopment
So
zone.
once we do that, then it can go out for bids with developers?
There's not a bid process.
Oh,
There's no bid process in this. All we've established is that these properties are indeed in need of redevelopment, that we'll have a redevelopment plan that basically says we'll allow people to expand the commercial zone, we'll allow people to use mixed use, we'll set design standards.
developers involved.
We're not there yet.
When will we be there?
After you follow all the steps. So step one was the plan, was the study.
The study.
Step two is the plan. At that moment, we can start to advertise. We really can't advertise until we've established that we have an area in needed
So
redevelopment.
we're approving it in March, then what?
Isn't the plan pretty much done? We just have to have a meeting. Isn't the plan pretty much done?
The zone is done. You determine what zone you want. but now you have to come up with what you're going to allow in that zone.
You understand that?
Because right
That's what
now,
happens.
most of it's,
Typically, it can either go back to the planning board, but council pass all ordinances, all resolutions. Planning board has no action to do that. So the council would then decide and say, okay, we've established these roads in this area. And we say, okay, what do we want in that area? Do we want to allow businesses to expand all the way back? So do we want the commercial zone?
When are we gonna meet to make that decision?
Eleanor, we weren't allowed to meet to go over this until after the study was approved. Council still hasn't even adopted the study. So how can you start developing a plan until the study was approved? I don't mean to be,
Step by step.
I don't mean to be pushing back on this, but it was made very clear to me by the attorneys and by the engineer that you must follow the process. Just like we encumber money before we spend it, we do all these kinds of things. So I'm very frustrated with this whole process. I am. I'm frustrated in two sides. I'm frustrated that it took us a long time to get where we're going. And I'm frustrated that that all of us here don't understand it well enough. I'm not happy that we don't seem to understand that we have these steps.
I thought that once we did this, then we could get the developers involved.
Well, then I guess it wasn't really explained very well.
How long before the developers can come in?
Okay, I think that's another misconception, is that there is no, we're not gonna sit here and say we're gonna build some grand shopping district. We're not gonna go design plans.
I just want to know when this is going to happen. I mean, it
You
just
don't
seems...
know.
All we've done, it would be like you putting your house up for sale. Your house could sell in one day, it could sell in a year, it could not sell at all. All we've done is we've set the stage so that we allow somebody else to come in and possibly,
When does that happen?
when somebody feels like doing it.
When they develop right for them to want to come in.
Okay, so how do we let them know that this is right?
We're warming the bath, we're lighting the candles, right? We're putting on the music in the
Little Epsom
background.
salt.
PG-13, John.
That's right.
PG-13.
And we're making it very attractive.
So first of all, you couldn't offer anybody a plan without doing the study. You can't offer anybody a pilot program, which is a payment in lieu of taxes, until the study is done, until the plan is done. So all these things line up
So who's
very,
doing the plan?
okay. So
Okay.
what I just said
Okay.
was that there was,
So now what happens after you do the plan?
We accept
please,
it.
I'm not able to communicate.
well, this isn't my area of expertise. It's Steve
Well, do
Box,
your
the
best.
planner. It comes back to get approved by council, and I think it goes back again to the board,
Planning board.
the planning board. And then at that point, it gets adopted.
Can you explain what the plan is?
Well, the plan just it's going to define what can go into this zone. Because most of it's commercial, but there is some residential. But now this is going to become an overlay. So we're not changing either zone, so if somebody wants to sell their house, keep it as a house, they can. But this gives a developer the right to come in, and we're going to say, we're allowed to
So
put,
what's the time frame?
There is no time
There is
for development. It's, as Nick just said, it's the same
At
as
least
you
you're at the
said.
meeting
Yeah, I'm
with
just
the woman
gonna say,
asking for the shovel.
you weren't-
When are we gonna start digging?
You weren't at the meeting.
Yeah, it's the same as you selling your house, as he just said. You put it up for
Everybody's
sale.
excited, that's all. Everybody's excited.
but we've got,
So there's no time frame?
not right now.
Step by step by step.
But right now, we've got to work with council on what you want here. Are you going to allow?
Well, let's look at the...
Let me try to explain what Jim just asked me to do.
Figure that out.
There was a few people who came in earlier before the meeting, and they peppered me for some questions. And I think I did a pretty good job explaining it. I think I did a better job than the way Steve explained it, because Steve was way too technical. To go backwards, if we envision the Black Horse Pike to change, we have two choices. One choice is we take taxpayers' dollars and we do something. That's not what we said we were gonna do. We weren't gonna take taxpayers' dollars, buy properties, build something, and then try to sell it. We're not developers. That's not what we do here. All we said we were doing was, we're allowing for somebody else to maybe do something. So all we're doing, to give you a great example, is before this town was built in the 20s, our predecessors came and they said, well, we're gonna have roads here, and then people can put houses there, and they can put houses every 50 feet. That's all we're doing.
That's the master plan.
It's the same thing, Eleanor. It's the same thing. All we're saying is that where right now there are residential properties, We're saying if some person comes in and buys that piece of land where the old merry-go-round was, and they want to expand it, we're gonna say, yeah, we're gonna say, well, you can do commercial all the way back to Central, which we might not want to allow people to go all the way back to Central commercial. You know, we have to think about this. We might say, well, we want to have parking, but we don't want the parking to be on the Black Horse Pike. We want the parking to be behind the buildings or adjacent to the buildings.
Who will help us decide these?
Okay, so Box Office has started this process with us, and they have two planners, Mr. Bach and Candace. They all work for them, and
And they'll kind of give us suggestions.
a combination of our input, the community's input, and the professionals' input. So this plan will allow the legal aspect of it. Now, let's just be clear.
When do we get the plan?
So,
Keep going.
It's only a back and forth. I can't say.
Yeah.
If we make recommendations, you say, yeah, they look good, we can be done.
okay, here's a Class A example.
All right, so it's up to us really to move
Thursday.
this thing along. Is that what I'm saying? It's up to council to move this thing along.
After council approves the study on the March meeting, after council makes sure that the money, which we believe was encumbered back in 2017, but we have to verify that, because remember, we're not allowed to spend money we don't have. So once we know that we've already had this money set aside, we then can set up the redevelopment committee and have these first preliminary meetings.
Who's on the committee? I want to be on the committee.
I appreciate that. We haven't established that there, because council hasn't even approved that the study has been approved.
This just
Who's
seems like
choosing the
it's
committee?
so involved.
It is.
I don't be here.
I think council has the right to determine who's the committee. Council has.
It's government.
Now, the only thing I would recommend is that there shouldn't be more than 3 members of council on there, unless we decide to have more than 3 members of council on it, which is fine, but we would have to have public meetings and we'd have to advertise them, which I am fine with, because I enjoy the banter back and forth with the public so much. So,
Well, it's going to affect a lot of people. So-
yes and no. You know, that's an interesting question too. There are people who are not affected at all by this. You know, we might do all this planning and nothing happens ever. Not ever. Now, what we did as a council when we bought the land next door to us, and we put a parking lot
We
in,
had a plan. We had a plan.
but we had the
knew
money,
what we were gonna
but we
do.
put our money where our mouth was.
Right.
We don't have the money to do this. Now, it doesn't say we couldn't, and now the box office doesn't recommend this, but we do have the right to purchase land on the Black Horse Pike.
That's not our intent.
It may be. I don't think it should be, but it may be.
That's not
I think it
really our
depends on
intent.
how things roll out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so to get back to this mentality that we're the developer, no.
No.
There are no people waiting in line to start digging.
What I'm anxious about is the.
Everything?
She wants to save before she goes.
Yes.
This might not be your go-to.
I can't blame you.
I had something to say about that.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, I appreciate it.
So all I would ask is that in the next week, we're going to adopt the ordinance for that approves the resolution for the study. We're going to,
Within 10 days, Joyce has to send both planning board resolutions and your resolution to the Commissioner of Community Affairs.
State of New Jersey.
Along with the area. And you have to send a certified mailing to all the property owners within that.
I don't believe we have to do that again.
Certified.
Not certified. I think we get away with not certified.
Yes.
We're going to verify that with our legal counsel again.
Didn't we do
Just
that?
letting them know it's approved.
Yes.
Yes, it just says it's approved, it's going to be a redevelopment zone, and we're moving forward.
Good.
And the only reason we even consider that is there's a
Sounds like-
cost.
That sounds reasonable.
It's-
Yeah.
We're
it's a
doing
process.
everything we can, it's just you can't force it over the finish line. Therein lies the frustration.
Yes.
So,
You just have to prime it. I think the analogy as to the putting your house on the market, you do everything you can to make it as attractive as possible, and then it's sort of
Well,
basic.
I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but it just seems like this might take a long time.
Yes, it does. It could take forever.
I can give you an
Never
example.
happened, Eric.
Yeah, there are situations in municipalities where 20 years has passed. 20 years for the Dydy car wash or the Dydy,
Westmont.
the Westmont, the diaper
Well, there
wash.
was a lot of legal issues with
once again, there can be legal issues with anything. So what we're trying to do is avoid the legal issues. We're trying to,
Guarantee, if you rush into it and do a hasty job of it, you're guaranteeing legal issues and
Yeah.
that gets caught up for 20 years.
we want to advertise
It's
properly.
kind of a tortoise and the hare situation.
We want to follow it. We want the DCA commissioner to sign off on it. We want to do everything in a proper step. We don't want to be accused of doing something prior
And then
to
have it
following.
thrown back
Then you get the
in
spot zoning argument.
A spot zoning. Do you understand what spot zoning is? Spot zoning is a great one. You don't understand spot zoning? You're on the zoning, you're on the planning board and zoning board. Okay, John has to be signed up for that class also. I just found out that 3 members of the planning board have to go to a class.
At least 3, I don't know.
At least 3. So I recommend you should go too. So for all of you down here at the other end, what spot zoning is, in a nutshell, is you can't just arbitrarily pick some piece of land out and say, that's going to be commercial, that's going to be residential. You know, that's called spot zoning. So what we did, if everyone knows, when we had the public meeting, when we drew this redevelopment zone, it was in a very straight lines. The lines were clean. It wasn't like we carved out, gerrymandered is a great word, around properties. We went down Central, we went down the bike path. So the lines are square. Now, the idea of this overlay, which is the redevelopment overlay, then allows us to look at that area and say, well, we'll allow the commercial zone to go all the way back to Central, or maybe not.
Or you might want to allow apartments above commercial on the pike.
Maybe, or yes, but only for the first 200 feet. So, you know, you can start to set some things, or I don't believe that we should get so technical because you don't know what the application might be. And imagine if you make it in such a way that the application dies before it even gets there.
So spot zoning is one property in the midst of a bunch of residential, you wouldn't put a
Well,
But the government allowed it. That's where it gets tricky.
what?
The governmental.
Yes, us.
yes.
That's the difference.
It's basically done, and the second part of it, and another definition of it, is that you do it to help one person or harm one person, rather than have it be part of a comprehensive overall either master plan or redevelopment plan.
So you don't want to do
Yes.
No. And that was part of the idea here, that we had to do nice, clean lines.
And developers and competing businesses, they know when you're doing this, they're watching it and they're ready to see you in 2 seconds. For example, I was involved in a case in Voorhees where when we started on Route 73, when we got Birchwood,
Yes.
I think I did the redevelopment all along that area. We put a hotel in there, which we thought would be great for people who are staying with the hospital, for, you know, all the rehab places and all the other attractions. Got sued saying spot zoning by a hotel on the opposite side of their town, some 10 miles away, saying that it was done to hurt our business and
Yeah.
just help that one person.
Yeah, you didn't allow hotels the whole length of it.
For years in litigation on that. Of course, we won because I was on that. It's another story for another time.
Yeah, but that's.
Right, so you've got to be as careful as can be, because they took the steps. Because their attorney, who happens to have the same name as me, but is an older generation, really dotted the i's and crossed the t's.
So there was nothing improper.
Redevelopment, which put us in a great position to defend the allegation of the spot zoning.
We
Now-
want to be like that.
And just another,
We want to
we
be
do.
able to defend anything that comes.
And then another quick story about redevelopment in Haddon Heights. They had defined a redevelopment zone, but then all the properties ended up getting fixed on their own, and they just withdrew it.
Yes.
Because they were gonna get sued by all the people, because they had eminent domain, which we do not. Condemnation, do you know the property?
Yeah, I
Okay, yeah, so you know it. So they withdrew it, and they pulled back, which was the right move to make. So, once again, we're trying to do things in a way, we are not developers, we are not builders, we have nobody that's out there waiting in the wings to come in. All we can do is set the stage to prime your example, prime the engine here, and then
Use the bathtub example.
prime that, is that what you said? But what we can do, Illinois, is we can have a good plan, we can start to advertise that plan, we can start to say things positive about our community, even things as trivial as the fact that we allow drive-throughs now in the town, that we allow outdoor dining in the town. Just for everyone's knowledge, tonight, the chief and the clerk approved the Miles having what are they doing?
They're having an extension of their licensed premises for St. Patty's Day weekend.
So St. Patty's Day weekend, they're gonna be able to go out into their parking lot area and make it more festive. So it was a function of the police chief to allow that, because they do have a liquor license and things like that. So those are the kind of things that we can set those stages for. We can't force them to have that outdoor party, but we can make it so that they can easily have the outdoor party and things like that. So hopefully we'll get those two things done tomorrow, and maybe we'll continue to start talking more detailed about the makeup of this redevelopment committee. We'll ask for our professionals' opinions about how many people and how those things should move forward. And then maybe we can start to give ourselves some timelines where we sit there and say, well, look, within 2 weeks, we want all the members. Within 4 weeks, we want to have our first meeting. And within those kinds of things, we can start to set that out.
Last point, the lesson as always is that lawyers ruin everything.
Yes,
Really do.
I know they do. Yeah.
It's nice. I took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you.
All right. So the other resolution for next month is a resolution approving a 6-month option for county co-op for paper. That's not a big deal. We buy the paper from them. And just to tie into that, are we doing any kind of formal resolution with the SALT, with the school district, or are we just going to just send them a bill for what we use, or we're not going to send them a bill, or we're just going to help them out? Do we need anything formal? Okay. Just let everybody know, the schools bought a V-Box. We're just going to, when we purchase our salt, we're going to allow them to buy and reimburse us for any salt.
And they help us.
And it's minimal, guys. It's very minimal.
And they help us out periodically.
Yeah.
with things that we need to. So
Yeah.
it's a good working.
But if we need a shared service, right? You're not saying we need a shared service or any kind of
We do
agreement?
not need a shared service.
Okay. So before we do payment of bills, unless we just all want to leave, we can go around the horn.
Subtle there.
Miss Passio, anything for this evening?
Trying to think, I'm gonna save mine for council. We do
Okay.
have the rabies clinic, which is March 9th now.
Okay.
What time is that?
That is from 10 to 12.
Is it all going to be inside or line people
Yeah, no,
outside?
we're gonna do it inside again. It worked really well last
Okay.
year like that, so.
And the women's club
Yeah,
is
the women's
take-
club will be
We
there.
also made dog and cat toys, and we're giving out, you know, material. I asked the OEM to come in with all
Yes.
the emergency stuff, the dogs, the
Yes,
animals. and
yes,
cats.
Charlie comes in and he
Charlie
sets up a
comes in,
table.
sets up a whole
for-
table
So that
with all
people
the
know what to do
information.
with their dogs in case there's an emergency
Yeah.
of some sort.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, and that,
Ladies will be there.
that goes off very well.
Okay.
And we're accepting donations and anything.
Now, do we have a game right after that? I mean, remember one year we were mopping?
Hopefully.
There's no
Joyce,
games
do you
after
know if
these?
there's any
Or is there?
program Last year,
Yeah,
we told
usually
them.
we don't reopen it until,
The next day?
what's it, no, that day.
Around-
That day?
Round
Not
two.
till
So
about.
Public Works knows to clean up?
Yeah. We still have people that will come and say, you know, that they.
Oh, that's
didn't
huge.
notice.
Which one?
Jerry Poop Scoop?
After the rabies clinic, there is a cleanup period, and the place has to be cleaned up prior to the
Mayor, I
gym.
do remember you did.
I
that.
mopped, me and one of the,
You did that one year.
we mopped to try to
You
get it
mopped
cleaned
the
up.
whole floor.
Okay, so anything else?
No.
Progress? Okay. Ms. Kelly? Did you have
I'll
anything?
save my report for council.
Okay, Mr. Ranieri?
Yeah. Do I need the mic?
You can use the mic.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it short. We had our first Public Works Committee meeting today. Patty, myself, Craig, and Harry made a lot of progress, eye-opening, and look forward to getting to some of the projects we talked about. The recent windstorm we had knocked down a few trees over at the Green Acres along the walking path. And I called Harry. He was out within minutes to take care of that. Thank you, Harry. Appreciate that. We talked about the cleanup. I want everybody to mark their calendars. The mayor's usually there, Patty's usually there, I'm there. The cleanup will be 9:30 in May. We're also having a rain barrel workshop. We're going to have a number of rain barrels. I'm already on the list to get one.
May 5th. May 5th.
May 5th,
Is the cleanup?
Yes.
9:30.
9:30.
I wasn't done, I'm still going.
Where you meet?
Rain barrel.
Green Acres.
Can I just pause you?
We're going to have breakfast and lunch.
23 rain barrels, so.
Will there be any organization there that will be part of it to get some of the funds that we had to remember when we used to pay the Girl Scouts to come out, they got
Yes.
$10?
I don't know if we're doing that.
There with any organization to get?
We have time to do that.
Well, what I would ask is that we used to try to get the local, or like the Rotary Club. If the Rotary Club showed up with 10 people, the Clean Communities makes a donation of $100.
They make a donation for the scheduled event of the borough function. It has to be a total separate cleanup.
Okay, so this is our cleanup.
This is our
cleanup.
I apologize.
Okay.
Well, you know we need to have those.
And where's the net?
But I'll tell you what, this is our first cleanup there in a while, and it's pretty dirty already, so we're gonna have a lot to do.
Bring your boots.
I will. We always do well here. I think we're gonna get more trash than ever, but we'll have pizza, we'll have donuts in the morning, coffee and all that stuff. The workshop should be really good. Harry's bringing in some young gentleman who's specializes in sustainable programs. And we'll be talking about, I think we'll be talking about our rain garden as well, possibly, while everybody's out there.
What date is the workshop?
It's May 5th.
May 5th.
May 5th. It's all the same day. It's gonna be a long day, but we can always use more people, right, Mayor?
Always.
Right?
Volunteer.
We've got plenty of trash grabbers and stuff like that, right? Okay, and looking forward to the redevelopment program moving along. I'm glad to be part of it. And Patty and I are in the middle of the newsletter, right about the middle of it. And if anybody wants to get us their hello and how do you do's to the public, give it to us. Now would be good, this week, next week. If we don't get anything, we're just going to enhance what you said last year, tweak it a little bit, all right? And the rest is progress.
I did want to bring something up. I know there's been a lot of talk about art. One of the things we needed to do is establish the committee. One of the things I had said to Ms. Passio was we used to have a beautification committee. Would you just want to rename it the art committee, or do you want to, how do you want
You have
to?
to put the word art in there and,
Because we have an ordinance, we could amend the
helps with our
ordinance.
sustainability.
Dan, we have the ability to amend an ordinance and change the name of it, change the structure of it. So we have an existing ordinance, and we don't have a beautification committee. Do we just hijack that ordinance and insert a few lines to allow us to start to put something
What
together?
do you think?
Sure.
I mean, you don't want to do the beautification anymore, right? You think that's kind of...
No,
Now, the only thing I'll say about the art committee that we talked about is I think it has two functions. One is it has a function of helping the borough do projects. But at the same function, I think you tell me this, I've experienced this in the city of Philadelphia and in Haddonfield, where there's an art commission that helps approve projects prior to them happening that are above our normal abilities. Yes.
You would have to delegate them that power through your ordinance.
So the ordinance would also delegate the committee with that.
Yes, but I would also say maybe make a recommendation.
It's only a recommendation,
Right.
and they can always
As long as
appeal.
it's non-binding.
Well, what Haddonfield does is it's part of the planning board, basically. The art commission approves it. If you refute it,
Right.
you go to the planning board.
Got it.
But if art commission approves it, it's done.
I
Makes
would
sense.
still keep the planning board involved though too, based on the recommendations of the art commission. I just think that's.
Okay, so they would get a resolution and
They
just
would.
approve it.
Yes, and it said, just sort of like how this, just a statement that this passed the recommendation of the art commission.
Let me just jump in on that. And I think Ken may talk tonight about it. There's, with an art committee, or however we want to put it, the group, there's a lot of grants available, things along that nature. And if they're not, if the art committee is not like a 501 nonprofit, they can't apply for certain grants. There's a lot of things they cannot do. So we're still doing some research to see what's best for the town and how the art committee can grow and also work with the town, be part of the town. Of course, it's part of the town, but part of the borough, the
Well,
municipality.
any applications or grants that need to be applied for now can be applied under the borough's name right now, umbrella right now. So even though we don't necessarily have this committee set up or a 501c set up, it's no different than the sustainable grant. We don't have to have a separate organization. The borough can just be the applicant, which gives us standing, right? Correct? That gives us standing.
And it also helps our sustainability for our badge.
Yeah, so I don't want to miss out on something because they don't have a 501c. And the 501c means filing forms, tax forms, and legal stuff like that. The borough can just put it underneath the umbrella
Okay,
and then do it, and the liability-wise and all that other stuff is really the borough's.
right, right.
So that's something we can talk about.
Yep.
But I think that if everyone's okay, we're going to try to get something, at least a preliminary change for because I know this is moving very quickly. So I think next month, we want to do a first reading to change the beautification committee to an art commission, that it falls under that planning board language. I agree with you 100%. If they make an approval, it's still subject to planning board final approval. And that's what Haddonfield does. So they call it historic committee. I wouldn't call it a historic committee. I would call it maybe even a better art and
Whatever.
improvement committee or something like that.
Art.
So, but that's something you wanted to get done, correct?
I'm not sure if the art committee itself wants to be monitored.
It doesn't have to be, it can be outside any personal group out there.
But let's be clear, if we're gonna have to have some type of regulation for stuff. So it has to fall somewhere.
I
Okay.
understand.
You understand
I mean,
that?
there does have to be an approval situation where you can't just, I'm not real sure about the limitations there. I really don't know. But I do know in art, you can't kind of monitor it in artists. You know, if somebody's going to put some work out and they're going to put it up on a wall, you can't say, well, get rid of the star.
But here's what government
Make
does.
her face bigger.
Government does say that only 50% of the wall can be covered.
Right.
And those type of things. You know, if you look at for example, our sign ordinance, it says very clearly that you can't have signs that mimic traffic signs. You can't make a sign that looks like a traffic sign. You can't have flashing and blinking signs.
What I wouldn't want to do,
Those are the kind of things.
because of the level of talent that we have in the art committee and what's happening in the movement that's starting out, I don't want to smother that. So
They should be the approval people.
oh, these folks, yeah, right.
And they're appointed, and they're the approval people.
They approve their own.
Because the planning board does not have the expertise to make that decision.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. to you.
Yeah,
Because
if the artist is on a committee, I would say, yeah.
And then now, if the artist gets denied by the art commission,
They're part
they can
of it.
appeal to the planning board, which is what our attorney is advising us, so that, you know, for example, I got denied one time from the historic committee for a sign in Hatfield. I appealed to the planning board.
They must have rained holy hell.
I did, I wanted to do a wooden sign, but they didn't want it to be a wooden sign.
Wow.
So, you know, but the planning board.
What town was that?
Hatfield.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but my point though is that the planning board wasn't able to make those kind of decisions when you were saying. But at the same time, you have to have an ordinance that says, think about this, you can't have, you know, you build a building and we say, well, it has to have a certain type of restrictions for ADA compliance, for all this kind of stuff. Signs are part of that. Art can be part of that because there's a gray area of, does the whole building become a mural?
Absolutely.
Maybe, but it has to have some type of process. You know, that's all I'm saying.
And it wouldn't be me.
Philadelphia has it, so let me just say, Philadelphia
It
has
wouldn't be me, Bob, and Craig on a commission. We know nothing about
Yes.
art. It would have to definitely be. I'm
Bob's
sorry,
got
but you
it.
are an artist. I'm sorry.
Well, it's a work in progress, and I'm sure it's going to work out. We all want what is best for the town
So
as
we'll have
a
to change our, like I said, we'll change our zoning to allow for these aspects so that they are allowed now. Just like in our town, we don't allow signs that are taller than 17 feet tall.
Right.
Those are the type of
Like
things.
anything else.
We don't allow, right now.
Well, we
allow
have,
commercial.
in our ordinance, we should separate that they don't have to follow the ordinances for signs, because it's not a sign, it's art. So there's nothing on our books, are there, for?
Well, but you still have to follow something. There still has to be some
There is actually, because that's where you said there's the, where does a sign become a piece of art? Or where does a piece of art become a sign? If there's words on it? You understand? So, I'm just telling you my other.
I believe it
That's
be,
exactly why the link is a planning board, and keep them in as a necessary.
Necessary step in case they're needed.
Correct.
Okay.
well, I'm sure other towns go through this. We just want to do what's proper, what's right, and what we're supposed to
I
do.
have to leave because we
Right.
have international dinner.
I'm gonna stop
Okay, we'll
by
keep moving.
if I don't stay.
Enjoy
Mr.
your
Lumstein, did you have anything? Are you done, Mr. Ranieri?
Yes.
You can always get back.
Progress.
Mr. Lumstein?
Just really progress. I'll leave everything else with the council. I'm going to a softball meeting now, I'll talk with them tonight. I'll let them know what we need for the borough, from here on out. And I'll be talking with the ROI too.
We got a plan for that fence, we got a plan for everything?
Yeah, we'll get that thing. We'll go from there.
Okay.
Application would be April 1st, is that something? That's how we
What do we do? Open space application?
do April 1st.
So we have some time to think about it, but I don't know,
Yeah, you might want to think about it. I don't have anything off the top of my head. Still haven't been able to get that land from the playground from the BMW.
Space to, we'll use that to raise a soccer field, to live with that.
Good, I don't think it's a very good application.
That little field down there, whatever.
No, it's good for us. It's good for us. It's not good. It doesn't look like a good application to the.
Yeah. Maybe it's something more tangible,
Right.
something touchy-feely you can look at.
Yeah.
You put a new playground in, you expand something, you make something bigger.
last year's grant, we did get money for
The fences,
Fencing, yeah.
improving something that was there.
You try for
I don't think
that.
raising a field has that same
You
kind
can
of.
try, right?
Yeah, you can try, I'm just telling you my opinion, I don't think it's a good
You need bells
application.
and whistles.
I'd rather see us maybe spend our own money
It's
to do
underway.
something.
Yeah, there's a small field in front, where we put the rain garden. Yeah, it's never gonna, it's never gonna be able to be used as a soccer field unless we do something about it. Yeah, okay, great.
But it's just a bad application, that's all I'm trying to tell you. You know, I sit on the community block grant,
Well, let's
I've been part of some of those
Well, let's
application
think about it,
processes.
because he asked us if.
Well, you got till April 1st, we got 30 days. But something tangible, something that is, you know, like when we built the field house, you know, they took a picture of it, and they showed that the field house was built. When we redid the playground down at the Beaver Branch Park, they took a picture of it. They gave us money for the Harry Williams building. They gave us money for the fences, they gave us money for the other fences. So either improving the existing location, or, no, I understand you're saying live in it, but it's not visual. Adding dirt doesn't, it's like, you know what it basically.
Could it be the entranceway to Green Acres? It's
It
horrible.
could be something like that.
It's a horrible entranceway for such a
I don't know how
beautiful
much people
place.
are gonna enjoy that, maybe.
It's such a nice place. It's just like rusty guardrail.
I'll tell you the ones we've won over the past year. We won, yes, that would be a good application.
That's a good job. That's a good.
That's maybe a good application. Yes, if the borough's putting their own money into it and doing that, that's a good application.
Thank you, Michael. You can leave now.
That's it.
I'm done with you.
We're a little bit more in the next 10 minutes.
Yes. You're good? Mr. Root?
You guys got something?
I'm going to go with progress, Mayor, because I haven't been able to meet with Nick. I've been out of commission for the last couple of weeks, so we're going to get back on this. Yeah, Keith. What did I say? Yeah, Keith. And so in the beginning of the month, we're going to start going back at, you know, the ordinance.
Do you want to try to do a first reading for any of these ones that he's pointed out? Like he pointed out, business trash wasn't really specified in the ordinance. We could just change a line and add.
Did he get back, because the last email I seen that he, you know, told him to put it in his words, did he get back with it? I didn't see another email since.
You know, I saw something, and I apologize,
Yeah.
but I know that he was talking about a couple of specific lines that he thought would help with people putting business trash in.
Yeah.
I agree, and
I
that's.
think, I think we should just wait until next,
Okay.
you know, and just, I'll just have a lot next
But
month.
he pointed out business trash,
Yeah.
and we still talked about sheds and things like that, in a few languages.
So not much on progress.
Okay.
I have an idea. For all of our committees, what I'm planning on doing is coordinating meetings for each committee so that we can all talk about these different things and get into some action and do some things.
The committees would make it easier.
Yes. The committees are here for the council people to get involved and to do, you guys are out there checking things out, talking to people, doing things. So I think if we can coordinate, have meetings for each of the committees, and kind of like organize it together and have some action items in there, I think it will help. I really do.
Yeah, makes it easier.
And it's good that best business.
practices, too.
best practices.
Well, that's what I had said at the beginning of the year. If every chairperson, even if you gave, 6-10 meetings, that's what you're saying, we know that we're getting together and showing.
And I'll be fine, I'll send meeting invitations out, I'll coordinate them. Bob and I just talked today about finance meetings. And I'll contact you guys and see when it's good for you. I have no problem coordinating it because it's definitely worth.
I don't know how to make that.
Yes. Okay. Anything else, Mike?
No, that's it.
Okay. Bob?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Finance Committee meetings, starting first quarter in 2019, we'll be having quarterly Finance Committee meetings. This will allow us to stay on top of the borough finances and to continue making sound economic decisions as well as conforming to what's best practices. Also, current auditors are preparing an annual financial statement. Due date has been extended to 3/11/19. Jim has completed all the necessary entries in preparation for their arrival.
They're here.
They're here, yes, I've seen them today, yeah.
I met with them today, they're making great progress, they're way ahead of than they've ever been. We may have a surplus
Tomorrow.
over tomorrow.
All right.
So we're making good strides.
Also, the 2018 audit will start following the completion of the AFS due 6/30/19.
Anything else?
Yes, Financial Committee met on 20, Jim and the mayor and myself, and discussions were made in reference to surplus, creating a surplus policy, tax collections, 2019 tax rate, salary, wages, and operating expenses, and started discussing capital improvements and possible financing. And another topic we discussed was responsible spending. Cost-benefit analysis will be used when deciding how and what to purchase going forward. And through 2019 budget, obviously, there's a certain amount of fixed operating costs, but other than that, spending will be done with an eye towards investing into our community and infrastructure. These meetings that we're having are helping me get up to speed. Jim's doing a great job doing that, and I'd like to thank him for his guidance and all the rest of progress. Good job.
Very nice. Very nice job,
Just
Bob.
one question. I know department heads are interested in their budgets. Have we disseminated any of that information down to them to see what they spent last year? You know, what they appropriated, what they spent, what was, you know?
Yeah, I've already met with all the departments. We've got one of the largest budgets, and we want to make sure that we're prepared.
Okay.
But I've met preliminarily with all the department heads. I think back in late January, we had all the information, they brought some stuff, but that's just the first meeting. I'm gonna go through, we're gonna refine things. Some other things come up, working with the police, they have some ideas about fixing the bathroom, different things like that. So it's kind of like a dynamic thing,
Okay.
but we have had meetings.
Well, the only thing I think that, one thing that when John and I, one year, I thought was the best was when we had the list of what we spent the previous year, what we were appropriating, and when we were sitting there trying to figure out where to move money around, that was actually very, very productive for all of us, if you remember that. You know, I think we cut a lot of money from Harry in one year, and then moved it around.
What list is that?
It was a worksheet, and it basically, the bottom line was what the tax increase or decrease would be. And you plug in different numbers, and it was I think it was the last year, right before you came in. I mean,
We had that last year.
but that was my favorite meeting, because that was the meeting where John and I had kind of been okay with a certain tax increase, and then John came in and said no. And it was really good, if you guys remember, when we kind of moved numbers around, and we changed it, and I think it worked out for the best. It definitely did.
We can do that. I do have a spreadsheet, a working spreadsheet, where we can go through different scenarios.
Yeah.
We definitely.
Because I know that there's a lot of talk about spending money in different areas, and I think that's where we've evolved, where we had no money in recreation, and we slowly brought that up, and we actually brought more money into public works, we brought more money into public events, right? In the beginning, we bumped it up a lot.
5.
Yeah, and then
We're putting more money into the areas that, like Bob said, where it's an investment.
where we get some return.
And we found like applying for the grants is something that can be seen.
Yeah.
Things that we're investing in, things that the residents can see, building up different things, recreation, public works, different
Yeah.
things like that. And it's
Okay.
been worked out. It's been working out.
Yeah.
It's been talked about today, the Harry Williams building, is it going to be painted soon?
The exterior? I don't think that was on one of our higher lists. I think it's on a list.
Because, you know, it does look nice, doesn't it look bad?
Could use a little bit of TLC. We got the inside looking
So
good.
is that going to go in like next year's budget, to put some money that it's,
This is more of this long-term planning, if you recall, we're really hamstringed this year because we have a fire truck coming in. So the fire truck is over an $800,000 purchase. So that really makes a lot of things difficult. And that was a 2-year commitment that we made when we did that.
So we get on the table for next year or something?
We did very well with grants last year. As you know, we brought in over $500,000 in community block grant and DOT grants. But we did do a lot of roads, right? When was the last time we did 3 or 4 roads at one time? I don't remember the last time we did so many roads. Oh, last fall. Thank you.
That's a lot of road that's in my area.
So maybe some of the grant thoughts that we're looking at could be for painting Harry Williams. Maybe there's something out there.
I don't know too many,
I don't know if CDBG would want to.
They want expansion of uses and those kind of things that,
Okay.
that's at least that's been our experience of winning grants have been,
Well, that may be considered, I know we talked about an addition here, this, that, the other thing there. It may be a big.
Well, those are the opportune times to do it.
Right.
If we fix that ADA bathroom issue, that's where we could tie it in and then ask the community block grant people to say, okay, well, we're fixing this handicap accessibility.
From where we utilize the outside most, the blacktop area, the large tree where we have our outside festival thing, the side of, there's no sign, there's nothing there, community, even if it's community.
Well, John, it's only been 37 years, so.
Well, now it's here, now it's here, it's very blank.
We'll get it, we'll do it. That's some nice artwork.
Well, before we get too far, I will say there are some things in queue already. Let's be clear, there are things in queue. These road projects are sort of in queue. But once again, they're based on funding. How much money do we get on grants? Recreation and stuff like that. Some of the stuff that Public Works needs, some of the stuff that the police need, some of the stuff that the fire needs, some of the stuff that the Borough Hall, where we're finishing up. But remember, one of the other big things we talked about last year was, obviously, we talked about the Scout building, that was falling apart. And then we also talked about helping out the fire department with their efficiency over there. And that's another one where we thought we could help them out so that they can move and improve move their operations over there and improve their operations over there. That's something that's a more long-term.
Public Works building in the future.
Public Works building, okay. And Public Works has done very well over the past few years. But I don't doubt that Public Works needs to be continually invested in.
Building.
I just want to get it close to the table.
I understand. There's just not unlimited funds, that's all I can say. If we want to raise taxes, we can borrow more money and do things more, but I think there might be a lot of pushback if we do that and things like that. So,
We'll keep moving where we are,
Yeah.
a little bit at a time.
yeah, I think we've done a lot,
Yeah.
I'm proud of what we've done.
Absolutely.
All of us.
Who of the professionals wants to, you're probably the quickest or you're the longest?
I'll make it.
All right, we're gonna let the quickest go first. He's gonna be a little longer, I think he's got a few things.
I think we are coming close to the finish line on the Cali Court matter. I think they did everything they needed to do. We just got to complete some paperwork, get ourselves in a position to take over the pump station, and we should be good to go on that. Tomorrow we have the negotiations with the white collar group, and then the Public Works negotiations are on Thursday of this week. We're making progress. Hopefully we can keep that ball rolling. Thanks to Jim for all his expertise and assistance, as well as Mr. Ranieri joined us for the last session, and it was by far the most productive session we've had due to his mere presence. Got us all rolling. So rest is progress. I'll have some more updates next week.
Harry, did you have any comments about county court at all? We feel pretty good about we'll be able to move right into that and not have any
I
problems.
haven't seen anything when we've done the meeting.
So should we have one last review before?
Oh, yeah, what I'm saying is we're still waiting on some paperwork and things like that, but I'll book it. Is we're getting towards the finish line. We aren't there yet.
And before we sign it, you guys go down there and take one last look at it.
Yep.
Well, there was, they need to submit that they had everything inspected,
Yep.
all that stuff.
That's what we're,
I would like to clarify one thing as far as the labor negotiations
Yes.
with Public Works. We're meeting on Thursday with Public Works, continuing negotiations.
correct.
I would like, is Harry able to go?
We'll bring him into it. You should read it.
But Thursdays are the worst day.
Thursdays are the worst day. Oh, for
Recycling.
Recycling day.
It's a bad day for negotiations.
Oh, is that what you're?
It's their busiest
Today's
day.
Tuesday, and you're telling me.
Yeah, why do you want to do this Thursday?
All
We should.
right, so I'll postpone it.
They should have known that too, though. The union should have known that that's your busiest day.
Yeah, but it's at 3 o'clock. Is that?
At 3 o'clock, well, that's bad.
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock. Oh,
Okay.
we wanted to make it 4 o'clock,
Oh.
but they pushed back on that. So it was kind of a happy.
Well, you gotta make sure they're done the route.
Right.
They do recycle.
And listen, if they're not done the route and they can't get there, you let them do the route, and we will wait. We'll wait for them.
When you asking for my list from Public Works, you get things from my list.
Do you have an open invitation?
No, just my list. Whatever you want on my list, you let me
We
know.
haven't,
Send it to runnemede.org.
Send it to me whenever you'd like. I have this, I'm asking for it.
Okay. Well, there's a common, all I would say with negotiations is there should be a common thread through all of our contracts. Where we try to treat all the unions, all the employees equally, and with the same vision of what we expect from each department. And we can't treat one department differently than another department. So some of the stuff that we're doing in the police department, we should also think about, with these other departments, that they're all treated the same. That's all that makes sense. I know they're all unique with their different things, but there's certain things that should be the same.
Right, and I've had the pleasure of working with you with the police negotiations, so I kind of have an idea of where you're going, and we talk often, and Dan knows, what you want, how you want to implement things, how council wants to implement, and
I'll make a quick little note just to remind us.
So we were just going to wait until we got closer to the end, and we had a list of.
We don't want to have a heart attack on the last meeting.
Yeah, you're
Jim is very positive. You rub off on him. He's very, very positive, guys.
even though
Was there anything
their
else,
mouth-
Dan?
Even though their mouth is.
All right, who's the next busiest? You're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Submitted my report in writing, and if you'll notice, there's a little update on how it's formatted, trying to make it a little bit more clear. There's a section called update and previously reported. So all I'm going to do is go over the things that have been updated. The first one we've talked about already under general engineering, which is the CDBG application that's due this Friday. We passed resolution 19-35 tonight, so we will have no problem getting that application in this Friday. Just have to get the mayor's signature on it tonight, and we'll be ready to go. Talked about Camden County open space. Applications must be postmarked by April 1st, so we still have some time to work on that, and we can work with Craig, see if he needs help from us on the application, or if you're going to do it internally. Whatever you want, we'll be there for you. The third thing on that list is we submitted 2 proposals for some survey and setting some monuments for some areas in town that I guess there's some right-of-way question marks. So that's just for your consideration. We're not
Let's talk
pushing.
about that right now, can we? So, did everybody see the emails from Mr. Bateman? So, I understand the pump stations. Can you help me out with Garden Terrace and Chestnut? Are we trying to mark our properties, guys? Are we looking at what, we want to know where our lines are?
This is going back a while, because it's been on my to-do list for a long time. I think it had to do with where does the road end and the driveway begin for when you're snow plowing or picking up trash cans. I'm not sure if
We
that.
want to know that.
Because right now, there's no road, we're traveling on it. Is it private property or is it the borough property?
It
Who
is
maintains it?
private property.
Where's the one?
I walked out there, I'll show you. It's in the middle of the road. I personally went to the lady's house, and I gave her 2 options. I said to her, either for her to give us an easement, so you were there, give us an easement for the property so that we can continue to do this, and we'll maintain the road at that point, or the status quo, which is we continue to go up there and just do what we're doing, but then we don't maintain the road. We can't maintain the road because we don't own it.
Didn't the dog eat it or something?
But the point though is, what I'm saying is that now she had pushed back at one point and said, well, she could close that off, and she has every right to close that off. But then we would not, she'd have to bring her trash all the way down to the bottom. As soon as you hit the bend, if you go up about 30 feet, 30, 40 feet, there's a marker right there. I'm not opposed to marking things, I'm just saying, what's the intent? Was there problems that you're having?
Yeah, no, it's not just there, it's that whole area. It's not-
Because if you find out that we don't own it, I would say that we're in a real quandary there, that we shouldn't even go up the end of that road anymore.
That's,
But the status quo is, we've been doing it for about 35 years, maybe longer.
okay.
I'm just asking.
Just because you've done it for
Lawyer, you hear
35
this?
years, if you find out that it's proper.
It's the 40-year-old, I'm sure the 40-year-old, we've been doing it for 40 years. Just keep on
Oh,
going.
it's 40 years, I thought it said
Do
35.
you understand the scenario? There's a private driveway that's built like a road. At some inflection point, it goes from borough property to this person's. And all this was created when the planning board brought in the industrial park. Do you recall that? And they cut part of it down. Do you remember all that? I've been in town that long. When the industrial park came in, it was a consequence of putting the industrial park in. So now you've got this section of about 200 feet that goes up, comes around. All the property owners put all their trash to the back, which is really their neighbor's property. It's their neighbor's right of way. Now, there might be some legal arguments to say, well, for all these years, they've allowed.
It's basically what we call an estoppel argument.
Yeah. So, once again, I'm just questioning, was this something you had asked for specifically?
We've talked about it before, because of that problem on Oak, but the other problem is between Garden and Chestnut, it goes straight up and it's partially concrete, it's partially everything, you have 5 houses.
I'm not against learning where our properties are.
So
I'm not
it
against
was
this.
delineated, so we knew where
But can we get our maps updated with this $3,000? Are we gonna get our maps updated too? Do we know more clearly where our roads end and things like that? We can update our maps. Have you been doing that every year? Do we update the, no? Gotta get on that planning board secretary to send those things over to, well, there's a $75 charge that we charge everyone every time a lot line is moved. It's the first ordinance I ever passed when I got on council. And it was brought up by the engineer at the time, saying that every time we do a subdivision, we're not updating our maps to say a line moved. So,
Do you know how many subdivisions we've done?
very few,
Very few.
but they still need to be updated.
They would never pay the engineer's bill.
He's the one who came up with the number, $75.
Something like that, per lot line
For a
adjustment.
lot line adjustment, he's only going to charge us $75. So if you think it's okay, this is a money issue, is it part of the budget? Do we put this $6,000 into the budget? I'm not against these things, I understand they're going to help us out. But realize what you're doing. Dan, I don't know that question. Once we know it's not our land, what do? We just continue to drive? I asked her for an easement.
Right, I think that was gonna be my suggestion.
What if she says she's not going to give us an easement?
And we reallocate. That makes it a little.
We're opening the door.
We are.
You understand?
Then we can close the door on that section, but the two pump stations, you have a bigger part.
But do you still need to worry about Chestnut and the other side there?
We can revisit it, looking now that we have the quote on what it's going to be, do we move forward?
I think we'd like to do the pump station, right?
Absolutely. What is the pump station issue?
The pump station is not clear where our property ends, and I understand that. We need to put a fence around it, right? We gotta protect our area, where our cars drive.
When you say the other.
No, don't even tell me about rebuilding it.
No.
So, what? All right, fine, you just need to figure out where the area is. Are they encroaching on our area and things like that?
We don't know. We don't know what's ours, what's not, unless they get to do the research and be able to go out and.
So do the pump stations, that's fine, we can put that in the budget, and when Harry and I meet, and we'll talk in more length about the other.
I'm okay with speaking to her, she was a very nice woman, but she has to give us an easement to
Well, why
drive.
would she not give us?
She
Like,
was
what
not,
is-
she wasn't for it.
It seems like it's a
She didn't want it, she didn't want, I think her thought process was, she
Isn't
didn't
it
want to give,
benefit to the,
it's benefit,
All kinds of excuses.
you know, I mean, here's a
People
simple.
always get hesitant when you're
Yeah.
conceding.
She's giving up
yeah,
all that land
yeah,
in front of her.
yeah.
Can I ask a question about something right above what we were going to say in the general engineering update?
Yeah.
The CDD, not the CDD, the open space money,
Uh-huh.
we have a deadline.
Uh-huh.
It's probably not a big enough project, but what's happening with the butterfly garden at the Harry Williams building? We're not using that
I don't think
anymore?
we were-
We're not
I
going to
think
redo
we
that
told
because
Linda not
there's a
to
water
do it.
problem in the building?
I think there's
we
issues.
told
Linda
We talked
not to
about
do it.
moving it towards the pike, it would look really
I
nice.
think the committee should get together, that's what we were kind of saying, they should come up with either the scout building or a piece of equipment.
I just threw that idea there because the spring's coming, we're going to lose a butterfly garden.
Yeah, I think it was a tough spot for
It's
the.
eroding the, well, we want to move it forward, and that, you know, that might cost a couple bucks to put a nice,
I think we did the last butterfly garden for $2,000.
Don't we have one? Isn't it out?
Yeah, we have.
We moved it out here, right? Oh, we want.
What are your options? What are the
Well,
options?
I think we're gonna have to put it on hold
it's,
for now.
it's pretty awesome. I mean, when it's in
It's-
season.
there's a-
and
The other
everything
thing,
else.
once again, is an application,
It's also nice on the eyes.
Yeah, I know.
for a $25,000 recreation application, I don't think it's that
Well,
strong.
we have one, it's just dying, and we're not going to redo it. We're gonna-
It's not a very strong application.
The one here is beautiful.
If you want to put it as part of either a public works
There's
or
one that was
a parks and
always at the
recreation,
library
and
for
put a
the
couple
last
thousand a year to
3 years.
update it.
Okay.
then we have to-
2020
We
PSC.
told
So that's probably not happening.
We told Linda, and that was.
This year.
That's not what I said.
We do that.
Oh,
So we told.
Here's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we told her to put it on hold.
Put money in the budget, in some budget line item, to do it every year and keep it maintained. It's once again not a very good application for an open space application. The recreational enhancement is a very specific
No, I
application.
don't think
Okay.
Linda did all of that. That was a lot of work involved, and I don't think we're gonna do that.
Oh, we could put
If you want to do something, just.
Okay, yeah.
So what- you don't need a formal resolution for us to do the 3,000, right?
Let's do it 3,000.
I don't need a formal resolution
I don't think so.
No, why?
It'll-
We've done it sometimes, we don't.
because we don't spend money without getting approved.
It's a purchase order.
Okay.
You
Get
can't
a purchase order.
No, no,
She did that.
that's a valid question. You need some sort of binding agreement that you can do the work, a purchase order will suffice.
So you'll give them a purchase order.
Yeah, just send me an email.
You got it?
You send it back.
Yeah, you have the proposal, but I'll follow up with
If
you.
you
No
want to
problem.
back up here again, I got no problem saying hello. She'll remember.
Greg will send you an email.
Okay.
We'll revisit it.
Okay.
I wonder why. Say no more. They were on the debate. Let Mark finish.
Moving on.
What's her last name?
It was the Hammond.
But she's friends with her, all right?
Who?
She was that person.
Yes.
Maybe she's
It's the
high school
Hammond
with her
problem.
friends.
I can't think of the last name.
You're a little older, come on now.
Well, remember the Hammonds that were in the parade? The Hammonds, Linda Hammond?
Okay, so she's a couple years older than you, but she's friends with her.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, no problem. Moving on to page 2. Municipal aid application, we talked about this at the last council meeting. We got approval to go out to design contingent on Jim certifying availability of funds. In the interest of making our CDBG application with more teeth, we have started to survey that. We're not going to build the borough yet until we get confirmation that the money's there.
Yes.
But just to enhance our application, we're moving forward with the survey. So when we do our application this Friday for CDBG, we can say we're under design, we're going to be shovel ready and ready to spend money.
Jim knows that.
I know that. I just want to let everybody know what's going on, because that is an update from last time. This isn't called an update, but on the bottom of that page, under Stingley Avenue, we are moving forward with getting our quote package finalized, and I will be coordinating with Dan on the language for the easement and for getting a right of entry, but we're getting closer. We had an issue with the cover of the pipe and how steep the bank was and too much water coming down. So we've got that resolved by the last manhole at the bottom of the hill is going to have a little weir built into it to slow the water down. So we are getting ready to move forward with getting the 3 quotes on that. Page 3, under the Black Horse Pike traffic study, we got a draft copy of the traffic report from Shropshire. It was a little incomplete, so we've asked them to revise it. They did a thorough examination of the Clements Bridge Road intersection. They didn't do a thorough one on the USHAM, so we've asked them to add some information to that. But on the Clements Bridge Road, they looked at doing alternating left arrows and things like that. It actually made it worse.
Oh.
The best case scenario they have is to request through DOT to change this timing a little bit, to take 5 seconds away from the Black Horse Pike and give it to Clements Bridge Road.
Well, you know what I figured out? I did my own study. It is faster in the morning. The lights turn faster in the morning than in the evening. Is that possible?
It's possible they adjust.
It's definitely longer in the evening.
Yeah,
Well, and in the morning, it's quicker.
Just upended everything I thought I believed. It's amazing.
Because the pike is longer in the morning.
Right.
So that backs up Clements Bridge. So in the evenings, Clements Bridge clears out a little better because it's a little longer. Like, and I don't even know evenings, it could be afternoon. It could start, but it's definitely, you put a timer on it in the morning and it's less than,
You know,
Well, this
I
one-
can't possess Runnemede, but whoever's, you know, they may be trying to fix the traffic situation in Denver.
There's
And
lots
that's-
of.
And we suffer that. you know?
So
This is, there's even more, like, I think we paid the money for this.
Yes.
you haven't paid anything yet, because I haven't submitted an invoice because I'm not
Well, we have a
happy.
purchase order.
There's a purchase order for like $5,200 or something like
Money is
that.
encumbered. However, I remember writing a letter to a delegate that Craig told me about.
Right.
That was supposed to get involved in this, and that there may have been funds
Well,
available.
there may be
Once-
funds
once we
available,
get-
if there's no solution.
Well, once we
He was
have,
even going to help with this solution.
once we get this report, we can forward it to that gentleman.
Yeah, he was going to help.
But I think the report had to be done first, and then you might be able to get reimbursed for the cost of the
Okay,
report.
I just
If I
didn't know
remember
whether
correctly.
we lost track of
I
that.
don't understand that study though.
That one guy.
I mean, I understand that's what they gave you and you're just, if you're, when it's all the way down almost.
I will forward you what I have.
No,
So you
no,
can read it. I'm
yeah.
just, I don't know traffic either, that's why we hired a consultant to do it.
No,
I see that.
all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ours.
Yeah, it's just,
It's
yeah.
mind blowing, actually.
You're gonna get the stuff from Evesham cleaned up.
Yes, and then we get everything, and it'll have recommendations.
Evesham's a little bit easier to clean up though, right?
Yes, I would think so.
Yeah, you said
Yeah.
a turning lane goes.
It's a little bit
It's just, and that might turn out that adding the alternating greens might help, but for Clemens Bridge, it did not. So they do have some recommendations, but once, I will forward that. I don't want to blind copy everybody because I don't want to start
That's fine.
correct? I don't want to start a sunshine violation,
It's easier.
so I will blind everybody on that, blind copy everybody that. Okay, page 4, the Reed and Schisler, as you know, we were substantially complete. We're trying to get some additional sidewalk done on Davis Road. We gave Lambert authorization to do that, then we got the cold spell. They laid everybody off because of the winter. I'm trying to get them back out to get this sidewalk installed. We heard from CDBG that we have like 6 weeks to get the CDBG money spent. If Lambert cannot guarantee me that they can get out there and get this done, I might just cut bait and
You're gonna do it?
cancel it.
No, together.
I might just,
So we can get our money.
because I don't want to jeopardize CDBG funding because we're trying, and the CDBG money is not paying for this sidewalk. It's just we're trying to put it in with this contract using their unit costs. If it doesn't work out, we cut it, and I'm trying to make that decision.
Well, that stinks. Hopefully the weather's breaking.
Hopefully it's breaking and they're going to get people back. And they just don't want to hire somebody for 3 days and then lay them off again. But we're trying to work that out. The ADA hallway and elevator, there was a roof leak. We've got to resolve with who's fixing what. So we recommended release of retainage. So I don't know if that's part of your bill list or not, but that was
What was that?
the release of retainage for,
WJ Gross?
Is it in there?
Last check in there.
there you go. So they're supposed to be taking care of the roof and everything. They've agreed that they're responsible and whatnot.
So they're going to take care of the roof, but we're going to pay them until, and we're just trusting that they're going to do that?
We have their maintenance bond.
Okay.
We're only releasing the retainage, not the bond.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to make sure
Yep.
because the
We're-
history hasn't been the best.
We're good with
We can get it mold inspection.
And the redevelopment plan, we've already talked, there is an update in here, but we've talked about that. I'll work with Dan to see if we need to do the certified mailing list once it's approved. But as you know, there's a process involved with this. And that's the end of updates, unless anybody has any questions about anything else.
The only thing was this last conversation about that land behind the Acme. Joyce, do you want to give us a quick update on that, what you got from Michael?
The only thing I got was a letter from Michael Albano, is the conflict attorney, that he was, I don't have it with me. There's really nothing in the letter. It's,
We submitted the deeds to the school district, correct?
I don't think it's the school district, said it's some
Their
attorney.
attorney, the attorney for the
There's supposed to be a conflict,
Their
school board attorney.
Oh, it is, oh,
What's
is
his
that,
name?
is that who that is?
I think
Harrison. But it was a certain attorney's name, what was his name?
I don't know, it's one page, it's sitting on my desk.
Okay. So that's moving forward, but the only thing that was brought up when I first saw these monuments is that we are going to need monuments put out there, at least stakes put out there or something, driving lines. And that was part of your proposal at one time now. Could you double check that?
Yeah, I can double check it, but if you
Because we did a
want,
survey, we just need to put some markers.
but we don't know what's finalized at this point, but I'll see if it included.
I thought you guys did the legal, did you?
We did legal descriptions for you. We forwarded those to Mike Albano,
And then he was adding the
and he was going to
15
go.
feet or whatever.
No, we showed what. the
You did all
easement-
that?
We showed what the easement was going to be. We gave the legal descriptions for all 8 lots or however many there were involved.
Yeah.
And forwarded all that information to Michael when he's supposed to be coordinating with the school board.
We're splitting that
conflicts.
cost with the school board, so the only way we're going to have to do at some point though is put those stakes out there.
And I don't-
Better, not screwing up.
I don't think we gave. I don't think we gave a proposal to do that, but our fee for setting rebar with the caps is $150 a rebar. And I think there's 8 different changes of
So about
direction.
$1,200 to mark all that land. And the reason is that once we have that land marked off, everyone will know where the school's land is, where the property is.
Then they rotate.
And we're done. I'm trying to get you out and not cut that grass as quickly as possible. I know we're only about 4 or 5 weeks away, so I'm trying really hard. Well, we might be able to make a deal with Frank over there at the school, knowing that this thing's happening, maybe we can kind of let him take over. What's that?
I'm in agreement.
You're in agreement,
Can I
okay.
ask a question?
Yeah.
Signs. I know we've talked about it a million times. Is anybody in charge of it?
Yes.
Parking
I took
lot
it-
and indoor?
Yes, I took complete control of it,
Awesome.
and I'll have drawings to you by the end of the week,
Oh, that's awesome.
okay?
Indoor and outdoor.
So I can like.
The entire borough, I'll put it on
On the
Facebook.
parking too, the sign, the signs telling people that you can park here outside?
Yeah, even there's little nasty lines.
And when you're in the planning board this way, of offices?
No.
Elevator?
Not wayfinding inside. I start with the outside
Oh,
first.
and then, but we're starting.
We started with the outside, the 4 driveways, 4 doors,
Thanks, Nick.
and Mike's parking spot.
Yeah, we all get a
I'll see
sign
you soon.
Okay, you were done?
I'm not,
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Diori,
I think we.
progress?
Exhausted, yeah.
Beautiful.
We may be good.
And now we got Harry, I got a whole page for Harry.
Each of these things that we talked about, so.
That's what I said.
It's,
All right, Harry, we're ready.
it's the pizza.
Quick and easy. I have the stormwater management plan and the stormwater pollution prevention plan that I like to put on for adopting, the borough to adopt by resolution next Tuesday, as soon as I can get completion of 1 page. Then I'll wait for some information from Mr. Bob.
That was a great book. So, does this have to be approved by the state, or this is just us?
Just us.
We approve it and send it to the state,
We approve it, that it's on file.
and that's all we have to do is keep it on file?
Right, that's all we have to do. And then I need,
Now, this was something supposed to be done every 2 years, is that what I found out?
2 years at a minimum, every year if you have changes, so if you have different planning board people change, different council and so forth, it has to be updated.
Okay.
Different people involved in it.
Can you send that out to everybody?
I can send it out to everybody, okay? With that, I have to talk to Mr. Diora, which is better time than better. We also have to do a webpage pretty much dedicated to this off of like Public Works and Link. And then
That's wonderful.
Stormwater.
So this is public for everyone to read all this?
Yes, these are on it, the maps are on it, people can look at it, there's other information that the state requests to be on it, so, because we received today officially from the state, the official non-compliance agreement, and it's pretty much these manuals and so.
And that's it?
So that's why.
How about the other maps? Sorry to jump in. Did we have anything stormwater maps for him yet? Have you?
All the surveying's being done, and they're.
Okay, we're still moving on. That's not part of any of that?
DR has the outfall mapping, which was needed back in 2005, I believe. So that, I gave him a copy of that to have it.
How many outfalls do we have?
That map shows,
Really?
yeah, there's actually,
missing one.
there's several.
We missed a few that we didn't know about.
Right.
You know, the Nick Ritz one, so.
Really?
Yes. So.
Which we found, under the shed, we didn't know about that one.
Yeah.
The one that's collapsing now on one.
In Sing Lake?
We didn't know about. So there's a few that. Well, we go.
You have the one on Sunnybrook Road, I hope.
Yeah, there's Sunnybrook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
That's one of the ones we fixed when we first.
There's one on the top of the hill, or was it Union?
Union
Where
has one?
Union and Hilltop, there's one there.
Really?
Is this
Yeah.
near a stream? Is
Yeah.
that see near a stream?
She inspected it, so it's now full.
Really?
The woman from the DEP?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's amazing. So we have a lot of cutting woods and so forth like that to do in the next 2 months, because we have to open them up, because each one has to be inspected yearly and after 1 inch rainfall.
What? Well, that one doesn't happen that often. Not that often.
It's been happening more often than you think, so, but yeah. So it's a plan that we're working on, Public Works is doing with different stormwater. So we're moving forward with that. Girls softball fence has been taken down, got 3 vendors giving us quotes. We should have it by the end of next week, quotes for the fencing at Green Acres softball. There's approximately 500 lineal square feet of 6-inch or 6-foot fence going up, and new batting cage for the $25,000 and some other little work with it being all tied into it. With that, be some new concrete work and moving the sign. Okay, so that was also decided where the sign was going. That was been and all approval as by Mr. Craig McCarty to make sure it's all.
Oh, he's going to that softball
finalized.
meeting?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, other than that, we're working on getting stuff together with the fields, getting mowers ready, so forth like that. Ball fields getting ready for opening day. We're starting to get the dates that mid-April is going to be opening days, depending on weather. we're going to be prepared for it. We're actually working with Triton High School on maintenance of the fields. They're actually helping train my guys on how to actually maintain the fields.
So are we hiring a vendor to come in and prep the fields at the beginning of the year? We're not gonna do it this year.
Triton's educating our guys to do it.
Come on.
Yes.
So purchasing the right dirt, the right, and there's
We're
certain.
going to do that for the infield mix and all that stuff, but for the equipment to level it, do it all, and all that stuff.
Wow.
We're working.
We'll give it a shot, huh?
I'll tell them.
Yeah.
When it was
He was the only one to
last
give a price, right?
No, I got 3 other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So with that, I got to do a file. But with that, we were waiting for this to confirm, and that's been working.
And we're gonna fix that stormwater inlet at the little T-ball field. Is that on your radar screen yet?
It's been on my screen.
I can bring my backhoe out there and dig that hole.
Just waiting for funding, sir.
Mr. Root, he doesn't do pipes.
Back over the water.
Well, we have all the material, don't we?
Yeah, he's the rental of the excavator.
I think you should prove that tomorrow.
Excavator?
He brings.
I'll run the excavator. I like the excavator.
We have multiple projects. We want to run one for a month, we'll do multiple
Oh.
projects with it. It's the backhoe.
I heard him say.
You just said it now.
You just said it now.
All right.
So actually, what I want to do, I do want to touch on one thing Harry said about the stormwater is very important, and it does deserve acknowledgement on our website. I think it's required. This year, we've been using our social media, our website, our Facebook, our Instagram. We have an Instagram account. We update our residents on road closures and the events going on here. We're very proactive. That being said, we've had to increase our budget for our webmaster, Joyce Media.
Hey, we weren't spending much at all.
So now we're paying $350 a month for that. But we use it. We use it a lot. He's very good. Very.
We need to use it.
So what I'm saying, Harry, reach out to George,
Yeah.
and hopefully we
$4,000 a year, come on.
can fall in line with
All of those social media.
I have, I'm going to be with you, because I have a template. I'm going to show you, make sure.
Yeah, it's where, I think any additions like that,
Really lessons.
because it doesn't need to be like maintained and updated all the time, right? It's just adding.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah. Girls softball field, basketball courts. Can we maintain them better with nets?
Yeah.
And striping on it, to make it look like it's a basketball court with painting it?
We can look at the striping, and if the nets get replaced out in the spring, we should replace all the 3 neighbors in there.
The kids really, they hang on them,
Well,
but we do the
you
best
can't
we
put
can.
chains up.
Yeah, no
I
change.
understand that, but
They
just like,
We replace them out, it's a normal thing, so we do it when the weather breaks.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Bruce?
Do you have sample resolutions that the state requires for?
There's no sample resolution for it, it's just that
We're
we're
adopting.
adopting as for record, pretty much. I can talk to you tomorrow about it more.
Yeah, do that. Let me know what you need. Stormwater and what else?
Both of them are stormwater, it's 2. So it'll probably be under 1, it's just that the borough's accepting it to file, that it's on record, that both meet the plans.
Well, give me any information that you have so they can make it.
Okay.
All right.
That's what we're trying to do.
Okay. At this point, we're going to do payment of bills, and then we'll get to the good and welfare. So at this point, is there a motion to pay the monthly bills?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Farrell, second by Mr. Ranieri. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mr. Ranieri?
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein? He left. Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
That's 4 ayes.
4
Mr.
ayes.
Jackson.
All right. Bills shall be paid. Good and welfare. This portion of the meeting is open to the public. Anyone wishing to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Kenneth Lee, 12 Washington Avenue in Runnemede.
Hey, Ken.
How are you? Let's see, I guess I'm here representing Reimagine Runnemede. We are a citizen-led arts organization, and we've been meeting, I guess, now for about like 3 or 4 months. One of the things we've been doing is trying to educate ourselves and look at what are some of the best practices that other communities have done that have helped with redevelopment. And one of the findings that I just wanted to bring to your attention is a facade grant program that seems to work pretty well at other places. I think it's great that that the town is poised to move forward with a redevelopment zone. One of the things that I did wonder about that is how does that help the existing businesses that are already in town? And one of the ways that that can be addressed is through a facade grant program. So what I asked John to photocopy and pass out to you guys was just a sample from another town that shows you the summary of what their program was and what the forms, criteria, and application system look like, in case you wanted to just have an example to consider.
So this was that, like a $2,000 grant type of thing?
Yeah, this particular one that we're looking at was a matching grant. They did it up to $10,000.
Wow.
And that was, it was for, I'm sorry.
Sorry. But you know what, if you could do like 5 businesses this year, 5 next year. It doesn't have to be a huge thing, it could be. But even if you did 5 businesses for $50,000, and you know, in 2020 or something like that, it's something to consider. We're trying to get all these businesses to come into our town. The existing businesses, we could do something to help them, which will just make it more attractive for other businesses to come in.
So, once again, so there's a design review group that reviews it, approves the application, and does it. Did you find out anywhere of how they come up with the funding? Where does the money come from?
Let's see, yeah. Some of them are from like block grants from the county and the
Okay.
state. It looks like it comes from things like that. And also other, when you create redevelopment zones, you can also create a redevelopment authority within that is then eligible to give money. So
Where do they get the money from?
That's a good question.
Okay, because this is what I'm thinking, Jim, is that we either have to fund this ourselves, we could do it even as a pilot program 1 year where we try this, even if we try to put a couple $1,000s and say, just see if people are interested, if they know, and imagine if we get a few applications, because if we get a few applications, hopefully we see that there's an interest in fixing the things up.
Help me a little bit with the acronyms, but I did go and talk to someone and they said what we could do is look at the Delaware, it's the DV.
Delaware Valley Planning Board, Planning
Yeah.
Authority, is that Delaware Valley Planning Authority? Yeah, DVRPC.
DVRPC, yeah, that they might be the one.
They could definitely help us out, especially with us doing all this kind of stuff.
Right.
But there's still, like you say, where does the money come from? And that's what it really, the one thing, the simplest thing is that we just take it out of our budget, but then that takes away possibly from something else. 2, you're talking about block grants, and then 3, I know some towns have business district taxes. I'm not a huge fan of that, but that's also an option.
I like your idea about a pilot program.
And then grants,
Because we would only have to put maybe 50,000 in.
What?
Well, what's the redevelopment plan going to cost us to get off the ground? I'm just saying, it's something that we should consider if you think 50,000 is too much.
Well, if we can only raise taxes in the entire town, 140,000, you're gonna put 50 of the 140? You still gotta do raises, the cost of living increases and things like that. So that's all I'm thinking. I like this idea of the facade thing, but I think that maybe we do it small to start off with, a few couple $1,000s, want to see if we get some applications in and do it, especially the matching grant. I like that application. Maybe $10,000.
To start.
Something like that. And then we could apply for these grants, but I have to find out where these block grants are.
I think it shows that we're really looking not only to bring new people in, to take care of the people that have been here.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, but if they're doing something, maybe that'll get them to do more.
Plus, we're enhancing the existing buildings that are owned already. People already.
And that would be the only people who would be eligible, right? People, existing businesses.
Yeah, if you look at the sample that I
Or
gave you,
moving,
what they
yeah.
do is they've included a map also of like where their redevelopment zone is, because basically you want a facade grant where people are going to see the facades of the
Yeah.
buildings. So it's basically, I would limit, you should limit it to just along the Black Horse
The
Pike.
Black Horse Pike, yeah.
Okay, I did have a couple other things on here. The other one is it did come through our research, we discovered that there is a $5,000 grant currently available from called Arts Tank, and I sent this along to Nick. It's being sponsored by the South Jersey Cultural Alliance, and our group would like to apply for it, but we do need some help from you guys, because a letter of intent or interest has to come from the mayor of the municipality.
Okay.
And by March the 8th. So I know that that's kind of coming up pretty quickly.
Do you have a project? Do you have an application that you've?
Yeah, well, one of the things that it's going back to murals. So we do have, right now there are 3 buildings that we have determined, business owners that said that they would like to have
Okay.
murals on their buildings. So that was one of the things we thought.
And that fits into this application perfect?
It would, yeah, because some of the guidelines on here are, let's see, yeah, if you read what the criteria is, it's basically a municipal government partnering with a grassroots or nonprofit organization
That's
within your town or a local business. And the goals are to help to enhance local economic development or community development. So, those are things that I think we could word it to fit in with what your redevelopment.
I think this is an easy one, because you got the commitment from the art, the business owners, and now the borough can do it.
Let's see, I plan to do a mural on my business. Let's see, Mike from,
Music store.
I'm sorry, the florist.
Oh, the floor.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so he owns that D School of Dance building, and that building needs to be done. And then the other one is the Mod Hatter, and they're on the top of,
Pearl, Bikini, Tobacco.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Where?
Yeah, they're on the,
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
on Plymouth Ridge Road.
Plymouth Ridge Road.
Yeah, top of-
I like Ken's the best, to tell you the truth. I think that's gonna get the most visual.
Great.
So it looked good.
Yeah, so I actually, this week I went over and I had a meeting with the people from Mural Arts over in Philly.
Yeah.
And they're going to hook me up with an expert in New Jersey who can be sort of, help us in, what we're
But
trying to
do you do this yourself, or you have other artists come in and help you?
I'm planning to do the one on my building with, I'm going to design it and I'm going to get another artist to come as a coach. And then hopefully also open that up to the public.
No
So how
way.
long does
So
that
Lance-
take you? I'm going to be in Eleanor. How long is that going to take you?
Oh, actually, I'm planning to start in May. Yeah, I'm going to announce it in May, and then I'm going to do it in June.
Well, Ken, let's get this letter from me done. Let's get the application done. Let's get a preliminary drawing part of the application to show it, and I think that this is perfect. You just told me, I think it should be your building, only because it's on the Black Horse Pike, it's in the redevelopment zone. And, because I hate to say the Ice House is not in the redevelopment zone.
No, not, right, I know.
And I think that down at the Cooks, it would be a little more work to get that planned out, where I think your building is really conducive to it and things like that. I think it's a great application.
Great. Okay, and I did want to, kind of chime in a little bit about, mural ordinances, because I
Yes.
did do a little research and I did talk to them, people about that. And there are some problems with that. One of the things that has historically happened when you do a mural ordinance is it pretty much bans all murals from going forward, because no one can agree on what the definition of what a mural
Let me just
is.
stop you right there. That's not what I was saying. I never said that. I said locations, places, those are sizes. That's the kind of thing that I say. The quality of the art has got nothing really, content is really not something I was talking about. What I was talking about was the way my experience with signs is. Signs aren't allowed to be in the right of way because they would obstruct someone's view pulling out of a parking lot. Signs can't be flashing or blinking because that would distract drivers. So when I was saying that, same thing with like homes. We don't allow homes to be built right at the edge of the curb. We have the homes back a little bit. We don't want the homes to take over the entire property because where's the water going to go? So we have to take those type of thoughts with this type of art kind of thing to say, okay, well, if you're going to put something of any type of art, you want to do it in a way that it's done right. So that's all I was saying, because if there's a free-for-all, there just has to be some type of corralling, not the quality of the art, but how it is put in the public realm. That's all I was saying. You can't necessarily...
New to this town, I would say that you could be part of the decision-making process.
Yeah, I'm not- I
What's
don't-
the right practices, right?
Yeah, a classic example would be, one of Patty's concern. Okay, well, how does it keep being maintained? What do we do when somebody doesn't maintain their mural? Is there funding to keep it going? What happens when it starts to look deteriorated?
It's their building.
Yeah, we have ordinance to say you have to maintain your buildings.
Sinatra's face is up there.
The other thing is where would it be allowed? Only in commercial zones. Do we want people painting their homes in a whole collage? Well, I don't know, maybe we do, but once again, these are the kind of decisions that you say, where's the zones that it's allowed? So that's all I was saying, so even I know Philadelphia, they still have, I've been in front of them,
they have an art commission that reviews it and at least says, you know what, yes, we agree with this thought process. That's all I was really getting at. I just didn't want us to sit there and say that we don't have any mechanism. Whenever you don't have a rule, that's when you run into problems, and then we're gonna play catch-up. That's all. That's all I was basically saying. Some type of mechanism to say, you know, you just said there's a mural commission. There's a commission, there's some group
Well,
of
no,
people.
I'm sorry, there's the mural arts group. So what they are is they're an
But
independent
can they just
group
simply
that-
go start painting anywhere they want?
Well, basically, the way that that works is a business owner applies to them and says, we want a mural, and then they matchmake an artist and the funding, and then they help to bring that all
Okay, so
together.
there's a process.
But they don't, but there's no regulation on who can have it and who can't, or what the subject matter is. and all
I'm
that.
curious that there would be no regulation at all. I'm curious.
Because what they do is, their best practices are they put as part of the program that there's community involvement in them.
Well, that's
So
a
you,
great
because you
point.
need to get buy-in.
So if the community sides in on it, you've got some kind of authority that's approving. That's all I'm saying. You know, you don't just, we talk about painting the bridge at the turnpike. Well, we don't own it. So, you have to have a buy-in from the person. I would argue that there's also, small public safety issues that we have to make aware, and things like that. I don't think murals are such a big deal, but I'm also thinking about art. Where do you place things? I mean, you were in Glassboro, you saw how beautiful they did that, but that was planned. That's all I'm trying to say. I just think that we always run into problems when we don't think about things through. We've been criticized in the past because we do something. You brought up the butterfly garden. It's a great example. We spent money for the butterfly garden, but then we had no mechanism to keep it going. Now your point is saying it looks terrible. That's exactly because of the lack of foresight to sit there and say, what happens when Ken's not around?
And she got tired of doing it.
What happens when Linda can't get out there?
Right.
That's all I was basically saying. That, it's like the grass behind the acne. Who's gonna cut it? Did you need us, sir?
Is that your son making noise out
We're
there?
doing a tour with the Cub Scouts. They wanted to know if they could come in.
Absolutely.
Yes, of course.
I'll stop cursing.
It's a lively
But
group.
you do like the idea, you think it's
I
going to be...
like the
never heard
idea. And I don't even say that I'm the right guy to say that, how do you corral this a little bit? There's got to be a way to at least control.
Let's start with the one and see what it looks like. And then-
I think that application is perfect.
Yeah, obviously,
Hey, guys.
private buildings, private buildings are allowed to put whatever, basically,
What's legal?
yeah, exactly, on them.
Hello, everybody.
But I think what
Hi,
they talking about,
guys.
when it gets into the
Girls.
art
How
factor,
you
they
doing?
put something on the side.
The guys that
You ever
started
go
the
through,
Runnemede Rocks.
Oh,
Yes.
Route 31 by Princeton, they got the cows.
Right,
Painted cows.
Cows are great.
You know?
I saw the cows in
Yeah.
Athens. They
We
were
gotta have rules and regulations where the cows can go, stuff like that. But as for the actual private buildings, we could say, obviously, they have the permission to paint their own building the way they want to.
Well,
within reason.
no, actually, there's, because once again, there becomes this, if you go from town to town, even painting can be construed as advertising. And advertising falls under regulations, like, if you paint a billboard, I hate to say you can paint a billboard, you could say,
See, actually, when you start to get into researching the problem with creating ordinances about murals, this is exactly what comes up. It's whether it's advertising, whether it's art, who makes that decision, and the National Endowment of the Arts will tell you that it's better not to have this regulation and let it go forward.
but what do they say when a guy puts up, when he says it's art, he puts a sign for Comcast, $99 a month, and he paints it on there?
That's, I don't think that's,
But
I think
that's what I'm
pretty
saying, there's
obvious.
there's still somebody looking at it, that's all I'm saying. That's all I said, if the art commission approves it,
And that's why we need an art commission.
as the art commission says, like I said, I don't think that we need to sit there and
And I'm
determine.
not improving the type of art, or it's just the value of.
And that it improve, I would say that even the endowment of the art,
Subjective, that's.
but even the
only
endowment approves stuff, don't they?
Yeah. Say that again?
The endowment approves stuff.
The National Endowment of the Arts. A lot of these things that they pass down, the guidelines that they do, it's.
But even so,
guidelines.
there's guidelines, there's still,
Yeah.
it's not just.
They say,
free-for-all.
don't regulate.
Once
That's
again,
basically what
once
it
again,
says.
I think we gotta regulate.
I think there's gotta be something.
Small municipality, we didn't have.
Sorry, you know.
Well, okay, here's a nice example. Do you, I have no problem with him painting this. I don't even care what it looks like. I know he's gonna do a beautiful job. But let's be clear, we have people in our community who keep their buildings not at the standard that I think is acceptable. Now, you would say that's very subjective, and it is very subjective. You know, one person's home, one person's business, their perception of what it looks like is their perception. That's all I'm bringing out. And if we're gonna give grants, we get a little bit of say for it. And because, I hate to say, guys, we are in charge, we have to make sure that we're doing things that are in the, we have to answer to the public.
Have to answer
You even
to
said
our
that, the
constituents
community has to be a part of it.
Who elected us.
So that's all. You know, if you see community involvement, I agree. I wouldn't want to sit there and make all the neighbors agree, because you're never going to get all the neighbors to agree.
No, exactly. Well, see, that comes down to whether it's public money or
Yeah.
if the business owner decides that they're going to fund a mural in their own building, and really, you know, if you want me to give my opinion as an expert, then I would say that they have the right to do that. And as soon as you go beyond that, then you're getting into free speech issues. And
I understand that, but let me ask you a question, though. If, I see murals, but I don't see them everywhere.
Right,
Why not?
because they are expensive.
Okay.
It's a rarity.
So there is
It's not
a-
something that's going to,
Okay.
it's a lot of money to do.
So it's not-
So someone's not going to do it as a gesture, just a.
Okay, so there's a good point that wasn't made. So just even to do this is a
You're
huge.
talking $25 a square foot. It's the starting point. So
And then what would be the maintenance on it?
that's up to, usually it's one of those things that there's a lifespan.
There is a lifespan.
What the Philadelphia Mural Arts does is, after the thing reaches the end of its lifespan, they beige the wall. If it cannot be maintained, then it's just being.
So these are on public property?
No,
What if it's on private property?
private property.
They
Yeah.
authorize the town, when the city goes in and paints it.
It's one of those things, well, one of the things that just came up is, there's a very famous pop artist named Keith Haring, and Keith Haring did one of the few public murals in the United States, it's in Philadelphia. So that was on a private residence. The building came up for sale, and fortunately, somebody bought the building just to own the mural, because it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they consulted Mural Arts on how to restore it, because they're the people that would be maintaining that building. So the murals add a lot of value to the community. So it's one of those things that as you don't want to stop it by putting a lot of restrictions on it.
The only thing I
How
would
to
say
get it started.
is if we create this art commission, the art commission, if they approve it, it's fine. And their guidelines are the basic guidelines. I don't even know what they can just do whatever they want. And then there's an appeal process to the planning board. So the borough passes an ordinance allowing murals with no real regulations to them. And as long as they're, that murals are allowed in the business district, because I wouldn't want them in the residential district. I don't know how everybody feels about that. I don't know if you have that. Do you have a concern about the residential district?
Yeah.
You think it would be even okay in the residential?
Yeah, I mean, I know someone in Haddon Heights, they painted a big sunrise on
Tasteful is arbitrary.
their barn. They have a garage barn.
Oh, you kids, you're leaving again?
Listen, I just want to say something. Are you guys the ones that started Runnemede Rocks? These are the guys that put all the rocks.
I have one in my office.
Town and wonderful.
Hi, Jeff.
I found
Great
so
job,
many. We
found it,
them
I
all
kept
over town. Keep doing it. We love
Did you
it.
keep one? I kept mine. I know you're supposed to hide it again, but I didn't hide it.
Can I ask you guys a question while you're here? Yeah, so what do you like about Runnemede? What's one of the things you think is really cool? Yeah. School? Okay, what school do you go to? Bingham? Nice. Nice. How about what else do you guys like about Runnemede? Is there someplace you like to go? Where do you go? Yeah. You like to go to Green Acres? Right. Yeah.
Green Acres.
Awesome. Great. Glad you guys are here. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Thanks for showing up.
Oh, so nice to have you.
We meet twice a month. You're welcome to any meeting. I think that's it. I say we just simply, he gets the applications on, Joyce, if we have to fill anything out, if we have to do a resolution from council, I can sign a letter. I think it's a great application. If you do a nice little drawing, we show your building, I think it's a win. And we've done excellent. I can't tell you the last time we didn't win a grant.
Oh, I'm jinxing myself, aren't I? I just did, but we've done well every other.
What did he do now?
He said that I don't recall the last time we lost a grant, which means.
Yes.
Yes.
That was a bad application.
VFW.
But if we have a good application, but we didn't own the land, that's why we lost it. VFW, but we didn't own the land.
Yeah,
That was a bad
It was
application.
VFW laws.
we really did the park.
Was there anything else, Ken?
Yeah, the very last thing was, you know, to assist you guys with coming up with some stages or beginning to understand like an overview of creating the redevelopment zone and how to push that forward. I did do a little research and I came up with, I found this, it's the Smart Growth America. It's rebuilding your downtown and it's a guidebook for revitalization. And I made some extra copies, so anybody who would like one of these, it does show you kind of some, what it looks like, what the process looks like. That might help you guys go through it.
Where are they?
Give Joe one, I would like it.
I have.
You know, Ken, one last Debbie Downer thing. Hope there's no Debbie, sorry. But there was a time where we talked about chickens.
Yes.
And
Still talk about it.
I hate to bring up chickens, but I'm gonna bring up chickens. And the only reason I bring up chickens is because there was an idea to do a pilot program.
Call your friend down the street.
All I'm gonna tell you is there was an idea to do a pilot program.
Thank you for my time.
But Ken, let me just tell you this, let me just make you aware of this. The person who was going to be the lead person for the pilot program was one of our worst code enforcement violators in the entire town. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
How can I forget it?
And I told, what was her name?
Oh, don't, yeah.
Gwen called me and I said, Gwen, you picked a person who, you know, maybe is a good person in this aspect, but they had so many code violations. How could we give this person the pilot? So what I'm saying is, Ken, you're the perfect applicant for this mural. That's what I'm trying to say.
He's complimenting you. Take that as a.
Whereas we need to be much, and that's what once again, I don't want to do something that we regret several years down the road because we invested several $1,000s to do something we thought was wonderful. Once again, the butterfly garden, if we don't maintain this stuff, we're gonna look bad. And that's what we're talking about with our stormwaters that haven't been looked at in 75 years, to butterfly gardens, to the Harry Williams building outside. So that's all I was saying. So Ken, you're the perfect application for this first one. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak? Yes.
Golisano, P31 North Oakland High. Just a question on your comment about the Mile High. They're going to be doing a St. Patty's Day, and it's going to come outside.
Yeah, the bar of the mile, they're allowed to ask the police chief and the clerk at the time she actually fills out the paperwork to allow, it's an expansion of the current liquor license.
It actually goes to Trenton.
It goes to Trenton, but they'll approve it if the police chief signs off on it. And it basically allows them for one day to expand it and have a festivity or outside.
Yeah, that was my question. Are you going to offer parking over here at the Borough?
The Borough Hall is public parking, and we're gonna do a better job of making people aware of that. So we might even recommend to the mile that they're allowed to make a little sign and put it up on our property that says it is public parking until we get our sign package done.
That's good.
But parking, once again, if we have a great crowd and there's difficulty for parking, that's a good sign for our town, if we don't have enough parking. So hopefully we'll get there, but we'll try to improve it. We don't want to cause a new problem.
Okay, because they may also have buses too.
There may be, I used to do that, the Aaron Express was in
Yes.
Philadelphia. Did you do that?
You know what,
Did you do that?
I'll go there and I'll stay there all day to keep.
And you'll keep track. Good for you, Mike.
Thanks, man. He's selfless. Okay, seeing no one else, is there a motion to close the public portion?
I'll make a motion to close the public portion.
Second by Mr. Farrell, all in favor? Public portion is closed, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to,
Motion by Mr. Root, second by Ms. Patsy. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
I gotta go.